All right, here we go. Here we go. Another episode of Diverse Talking Heads podcast, and I'm your host. My name is Calvin Gibbs, and we have a interesting topic for this evening with all of the heavy things going on in the world, all of the pain, all the heartache, all the famine, all the destruction going on. We've decided that we're going to go for the funny this evening. We're going to go for the funny, and we have a topic. It's called Desk Jockeys and Water Cooler Woes, Tales from the Cubicle Chronicles. So tonight we're going to talk about funny stories that have happened with us in our workplace. And here with me is our regular panelist this evening. We have with us panelist Charles,
Calvin, thanks for having me.
and we have panelist Dan. Good evening, Dan.
Hello, everybody.
And we have panelist Marcette.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. We have panelist Amy.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Amy. And we have panelist Kolschel here with us today.
Hello. I look forward to all the funny.
Yes, indeed. I think we need to laugh. So much of what I hear on the news these days, it used to be 10 minutes. Now it's like the first half hour is all tragic stories. So I think it's good. Maybe we can get some laughs with us, and maybe we can share our laughs with the rest of the world. And since we're talking about the funny this evening, I forgot to introduce one of our panelists this evening, and she's coming to the studio and she is smiling with a big Kool-Aid smile. Please welcome panelist Karen to the podcast. Hey, Karen.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So let's get right to it. Who would like to begin with something funny that may have happened at your job? You don't have to give any names. You don't have to give any company names if you don't want to, but just share something funny that have happened to you in your workplace. Yes, Kaushal.
I've got a couple of stories.
Mm.
One is from my very first job. I worked as a grocery bagger at Jewel. I was not good at this job. Bagging groceries is like playing Tetris. You have to be able to make really quick decisions about where to put that bread, where to put those eggs, where to put that milk. And the conveyor's not going to stop and pause while you wait. You got to put that stuff in the bag. You got to do it right. I'm not good at Tetris, so I was not a good grocery bagger. One incident that stands out in my mind is I was packing a salad into the bag, and the lid on the salad flew open, and the contents of the salad went all over the conveyor belt. So, being my dumb teenage self, I actually picked up the pieces of the salad, the lettuce and mushrooms, and put them back in the container as if anyone would still want to eat that. The couple who had bought the salad were just sadly and disappointedly watching me do this, but they didn't complain. They patiently let me carry out the charade of customer service. I put the salad back to the container, put the salad container into the bag, and did my job. But that couple showed patience and understanding towards my incompetence.
Wow.
So that taught me to be patient and understanding to others when they make a mistake serving me. That's helped me in my current job a lot. My current job is as a Freedom of Information Act officer for the federal government, which means that I look at the information requests that anyone in the world can send us. And the government is obligated to reply to those requests in some way. Even if we don't have any records that they're asking for, we have to at least acknowledge that we got the request. We get a fair number of requests from people who are having mental difficulties.
Mhm.
So in cases like that, I say, sorry, lady in subblock A, we don't have any records on you or your previous 6 aliases, something like that. But one time we got a very strange request. This person wanted to know about a teenager in Indiana who built a nuclear device in his bedroom. And when this came in, I thought, oh, here's another one for the crank file, but we've got to process it somehow. So I assigned this request to the division at work that handles hazardous waste cleanup. I figure if anyone is going to reply, it's going to be them. So I just assigned it and forgot about it. Then a few weeks later, that division that handles hazardous waste cleanup, they completed their reply letter and sent it to me for review. I was stunned to learn that this actually happened. A teenager in Indiana somehow learned how to make a nuclear device, and he somehow acquired the materials for it.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he did not know how to build it safely. This resulted in the house becoming seriously contaminated with radiation. The authorities were notified, and while they were on their way, the teenager's mom, in an attempt to destroy the evidence, flushed the device down the toilet, which only made the radiation contamination worse.
Oh my God.
So our response letter acknowledged that this happened, and it provided the records which showed every item in the house that got contaminated, every lamp, every children's toy that got ruined by this teenage do-it-yourself science project.
Wow.
You never know
Oh
with
my
some of these
gosh.
information requests. It's been an interesting learning experience.
I bet he got an A on it though. Bet he got
Maybe
an
a
A.
B since it was not safely built.
Well, Coastal, thank you for sharing. Those were some great stories. Now, in the supermarket line, packing the food, they probably thought, well, we're gonna take it home and wash them anyway, so it's okay. And they saw this teenage kid and decided to give you a break. Think you got the right people that day, because some other folks, especially today with the high price of vegetables, oh man, they might have said something to you, might have did something to you.
Yeah, I was definitely lucky that those customers were patient and kind. Although if they went to the service desk afterward to complain and get a refund, I would not have blamed them.
Oh man, thanks for sharing. Does anybody else have a funny story about work to share? Karen.
Well, I have a whole bunch. We decided on Fridays would be dress down day, and during football season, you could sport your team's jersey, right? And I was like, oh, that's nice, right? So I'm a New York Giants fan, so I had a bandana that I turned into a flag. I had New York Giants, Dallas, and Pittsburgh. So I live in Washington, D.C., so you had the Commanders, used to be the Redskins. One day I was in the drugstore, and for the first time they had NFL tickets in a box, tissues in a box. So every team that the Redskins lost to, I bought a box of tissues for my coworkers. So every time they would lose, I would send them a stick figure caricature. And I sent them boxes of tissues in her office, and they didn't know what it was because the way I had it wrapped up, they thought it was a package. So every time they would lose, I would send them a box of tissues. So one day I was sitting at my desk, and there were 4 of my coworkers. They worked IT, and something said, "Turn around." They were all standing behind me because the Redskins lost, and I sent each one of them a box of tissues at 3 different times of the day. And they were like, they tore down all my Giants memorabilia. They hid my stuff. I couldn't find it. I was like, what? That is so not cool. I mean, if you had seen the boxes of tissues, they were like, where did you find them? I was like, I can't tell you. I had a box for everybody's team that lost. They were so angry with me. They wouldn't even fix my PC when it broke.
And you deserve not to have your PC fixed.
Yeah, the cartoon caricatures was the worst because I had tears and stuff like that, and people like pounding, and they were stick people. And it was like,
Hey, you can't mess with people's football team.
yeah.
Well, Karen and I have a former classmate who is a Dallas Cowboys fan, and she tells us up from the front, the beginning of the season, do not send her anything on social media about her team, or she will definitely cut us off. And she's been saying that for at least 20 years now, right? Yep. Don't play with people's teams. Thanks for sharing, Karen. Anybody else have a story? Dan.
Okay. Several years back, I had this boss who was a serious micromanager. And if anybody's ever worked for a micromanager, you know how they can drive you crazy. And nothing really gets done because they're in the weeds when they should be looking at the whole picture. And I used to call her J. Edgar Hoover because she kept notes on everybody. And one day drove me nuts, this person, and drove the rest of the team nuts. And this was for a large corporation we were working for. So we're, one of the niches in a large corporation. And one day the director for our group walked by our cubicles and said, "Good morning." After he left, she pulls me into her office and goes, "What were you two talking about?" He said, "Good morning." "No, that can't be it. What are you guys hiding?" And she pulls out this pile of paper 1.5 feet high, and she goes, "This is your file."
Mm.
I'm like, okay. No wonder nothing gets done around here. So, of course, one of the major systems blows up because nothing's getting done right there. And she pulls us all into a conference room and goes, "We got to fix this. The people above us are hammering down, and they're all upset and everything else." And she goes around, "What do you think it is?" And I give my ideas. "No, it can't be that." Interesting fact, when it all came out in the end, actually, that's what that was what it was. And we're going through this meeting, and it's like one of the craziest things. She's nitpicking. She's got her piles of paper. She's writing stuff for everybody's file. She's got files for everybody there, and she's writing stuff frantically as everybody talks. And this guy bursts into the room. He's a senior VP, and he goes, "So did you find the problem?" And she's like, "We're working on it." And he comes over and he pounds on the table. It was like out of a movie. He comes and he pounds on the table. He goes, "I want a list of all unaccounted for and unexpected problems." And then he walked out of the room. We're all sitting there kind of stunned. And she goes to us and she goes, "We got to get this list for him." And she looks at me like, "Well, you're one of the project managers. I want you to get this list." And I looked at her and go like, "It's unexpected problems. There's a reason we call them unexpected problems, because we don't know what they are. And she curiously writes some more in my file.
Oh, you got written up for that one.
I did get written up for that one. Needless to say, I started looking for work the next day. I made it about 10 months there, but it was a wild ride. Well, we never found the unexpected problems, and I don't know if the guy ever got his list, but one crazy person to work for.
Well, Dan, thanks for sharing that story. I am going to jump in and I'm going to piggyback on that because I had an overbearing micromanaging manager as well on one of my jobs. And she, for some reason, just didn't like me. You know, everybody loves Calvin, but she didn't. She didn't even like Calvin. So, as the story goes, one day she had on these white jeans, and we see her go past the department from her cubicle. She walks past towards the bathrooms. Now we all knew that around 10 o'clock, the cleaning crew was cleaning up the men and women's bathroom. So she walked by kind of fast, and I looked up and I saw her because you always keep your eyes on your enemies, right? I saw her walk by kind of quickly, and then I saw her come back, and she was walking even faster. She was trying to get to the other bathroom, but the other janitor was cleaning that bathroom, and she couldn't get in. So I see her running by, and she's kind of like, and she's walking fast. So then the other choice of bathroom was way on the other side of the facility where the dispatchers was, and she didn't make it. So as I said, she had those white jeans on, and dude, man, when she had to walk back to get to her cubicle, I was on the floor. I just couldn't. I guess that's another reason why she hated me so bad. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I was laughing so hard, man. And of course, it's contagious when you laugh like that because my whole department was cracking up. Even the ones that were trying not to laugh, they were laughing. She was beat red, pissed off, and embarrassed. And well, she left for the rest of that day. But when she showed up the next day for work, like nothing ever happened, took one look at her, I started laughing again. So that's my story.
Gosh, what a nightmare.
That's my story. Today is still funny. I'm sorry. Does anybody else have a story? How about you, Charlie?
Oh, Charlie has plenty of stories. Yeah. As some of you know, I have a theater acting background. I've actually acted on stage with Calvin as well as Amy, although that was a while ago. I've worked for a company for many years and done children's parties, and I do costume characters. And we're talking about enclosed costume characters. So I've done characters like Elmo, Barney, SpongeBob. I just did a couple Easter bunnies here over Easter, Santa Claus, and others. Probably the time, and I've done these for 25 years, and the time I probably screwed up the most was with Elmo. I've done probably over 100 parties of Elmo over the years, typically children's parties or other larger events or whatever. There was a period one summer where I was doing Elmo every week. And so I go and, I went and got the costume at the office and went and did Elmo. So typically I would get the costume on Friday. I go do a show or two on the weekend, take the costume back on Monday. Well, it turned out to be a period of 6 weeks in a row. So I kept the costume. There was one problem. I never cleaned the costume. And this is during the summer, and you go in there and I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt and you're going to sweat like you won't believe in this thing. So I had done this for 6 weeks, and I finally ended up at a party at somebody's house for a kid. And it was in the summer, and it was outdoors. And so I went to the backyard, and I was dancing as Elmo. And suddenly somebody walks over to me with a cell phone. And I'm in Elmo's voice, hello? And they said, this is, so-and-so for the office. You have to leave. because you smell. Oh, okay. And then I just went, I said, here's your phone. And I just laughed. And I had to stop, and I had to do another Elmo that day. And I had to stop somewhere and get some breeze and spray the crap out of it so I could get away with it. And luckily, the other event went without a problem there. But yes, I was Stinky Elmo.
Smell mo.
Smell more. Smell more.
Keep them for 6 weeks and don't put them in the laundry. You're going to be stinky. Okay. I mean, I took a shower during that time or two, but not the costume. So,
Was it a kid on the phone or an
no,
adult?
it was my person. It was somebody from my office calling.
Oh, somebody from your office.
Office call, which was very unusual unless there was some sort of problem.
Wow.
Our name was Jean, and it says, "Hi, this is Jean." Oh, why are you calling? I was like, "You have to leave." I was like, "Why?" And then she tells me, said, "Oh, okay." I was like, because I was like the last person I was expected to talk to during the middle of this.
Wow. What would have really been funny if a kid had walked up to you and said, "You smell," because kids.
I don't remember a kid doing it, but apparently an adult must have smelled it because I wasn't aware of that until I was out in the yard playing with the kids, and it was like a 2-3-year-old's party or something like that.
Right.
And and somebody hands me a cell phone in the middle of it, and I was very confused to say the least. So,
Well, Charlie, thank you for sharing your story on Smell Mo. Does anybody else have a story? Amy.
Okay. Mine is a little risque, so I was kind of waiting. Can you hear me? You cannot hear me. All right.
It's breaking up, really badly.
Oh, I don't have to go that. If it's breaking up too much, then I won't try. Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll move on, keeping the show moving. How about Marcette? And you're
Okay,
on
yeah. Okay, yeah. I was trying to rack my brain. I didn't have anything. You guys got some good stories, so I was like, okay, I don't want to bring the energy down. I'm trying to think. I had a couple. Mostly like when I was in high school. A good friend of mine got me a job, and we were both working at Water Tower in Chicago. For those of you who are familiar with Chicago, we worked at a couple spots. We worked at a couple of department stores, and there's the Limited was the ladies' clothing store and stuff there. So we thought we hit the jackpot. We were like, we were two guys, and everybody else swimming except one of the managers. So we worked around women. And there's another guy there who worked there with us named Preston. And we would always mess with him because he had a lisp, a real big guy, but he talked really slow and he had a lisp. So one day, and the guy who got me a job, he and Preston had been working there for a long time together, and they were kind of had this antagonistic relationship. So Preston was always like 3 seconds from choking him, in the back room. So every day we worked. So I kind of took the job as the mediator, unexpectedly. I didn't know what was going on. So our manager came in one day, and we were in the back kind of getting stuff together to get some of the new product out. The truck had just come. And for whatever reason, everything that this guy, Ryan, my friend's name was Ryan, everything Ryan did, it was almost like you came to work to mess with Preston. So he left some, how when you buy clothing and it's brand new and it's still in the plastic bag and they're very slippery. So needless to say, he had like a floor full of clothes. Preston came back there, slipped and fell as the beginning of the shift. Then, we're laughing. So sometimes in a situation when, like Calvin was saying, you're embarrassed, and the more someone laughs, the madder they get, the person who's. So then we were climbing up. He climbed up on the ladder to get some of the big rounder, the wood. At that time, they had those wood rounders in the middle of the clothing racks. So he dropped a whole load of rounders on the guy's head. So he just flipped out, started, "God damn it, Brian!" So I'm back there trying to keep them from fighting, man. And it didn't help because we were both dying laughing because the dude was damn near knocked out and hurt. And, we were laughing instead of trying to get him some help. And I'm trying to break him up from choking my friend. So it was a terrible day. terrible week. It was just funny, but it wasn't funny. So that was kind of hilarious and sad at the same time.
Oh man, thank you for sharing, Marcette. That was a good one. That was a good one. So we are ready for round two. Who has another story? Something funny that happened at work. Karen.
No, I got him. Hey, listen, I used to do tax enforcement. So we had a fleet of cars that we needed to tag just one to get the attention of the owner so that they would pay the back taxes. And every day, my partner and I, we'd ride by this government building, right? And we'd say, man, just imagine if we had to go in that building, right? Never paying attention to the building's number and address. We'd be like, oh, they just, because outside, because after 9/11, they had, they had the grids that came up with the spikes in it, and they had the AK-40s, the rifles ready to just shoot and blow you up. And we were like, oh, we don't have to go in there. So when we got the account, and I was doing my research, I kept saying, okay, every time I pull up this account number, this VIN number, the tags are different than what I'm looking at, So I'm calling around. I'm like, what's going on? And all of them were a certain type of car. They were Suburbans. Never put it together. And I'm saying, okay, so we look at the address. We're like, well, let's go down here, tag this, get it over with, because we've been pushing it back. Yeah, we'll get to it. Well, the vehicles that we were looking for belonged to the federal government. And they were the vehicles that they transport dignitaries in. That's why none of the information matched. And when we got to the building and we looked at the apps, we looked at each other. It was like a comedy routine. We looked at the address, we looked at each other, we looked at the address again and said, wait a minute. And the government agency's name was on the front of the building, and we just burst out laughing. And we just said, hey, we're not going to do this. So we go back to work. We're like, we can't touch one of the vehicles. They're like, why? You can just go in the garage, put the boot on the car, boom, boom. But we're like, we can't go in the building. And my boss is like, well, I'll go. And we're like, okay, all right. Down there, they stop him, almost shot him. And he was angry. I don't know why we can't go in. I said, feds trump local government, man.
That's right.
He was like, well, it's got to be a better way. Go down there. I said, I'm not going down there. And we went back down there with him, and we were in the van hollering. If you had seen us laughing, we were laughing so hard, my eyes were red. When he opened the door, we were like, how you chastise kids, stop it, cut it out. We were like, okay. He was like, I guess we can't get them. We laughed so hard. When we saw that it was a government agency and they had armed guards outside, they didn't believe us. We got back to the office. We went in the staircase and we hollered. We laughed so hard.
Wow.
He was like, you should have told me. I said, we tried to tell you we can't get them.
Okay, Karen, thank you for sharing that one. Wow. Amy, did you get into a better situation there?
Can you hear me, or is it still breaking up?
It is still breaking up. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to switch, but you can pass me by. I'm going to try.
Okay, we're going to move to another panelist. Anybody else have another story? Charlie.
Yeah, I got a SpongeBob story if you want. You hear me?
Yes, go for it.
Well, I was doing another event. I was in the city of Chicago at a older, let's say a 2-floor walk-up building. They got kind of log steps, those older buildings like that. And I was doing SpongeBob, and everything went wrong. Like, we have music we played, the music didn't play for some reason. There were some other things. And at the end of the party, so I'm dressed as this character, SpongeBob character, the costume we have, it looks like an oversized paper bag that you put on your head. And then there's leggings and all that. And, hi kids, how's it going? That sort of thing. And so I'm getting ready to leave. Luckily, no, there wasn't a call from my office, but I was getting ready to leave, and it had gone so badly. Somebody yelled behind me, let's throw SpongeBob Bob down the stairs here. And I'm thinking to myself, get me the bleep out of here. And you never saw SpongeBob move as fast as he can. He was carrying stuff and trying to get down those 20 steps without getting rolled down the steps. And, God knows what would have happened after that. But yeah.
I would love to see a video of that SpongeBob being chased.
Yeah. It wasn't nice.
I bet it wasn't. I don't know how funny this is, but one of my first jobs that I had was in Philadelphia. And I was freshly out of college, first job. And I had been working hard. I think I had another job, but this one was an office job. And I got an opportunity to get some overtime by working on a Saturday. And I'm not going to lie, I had me a couple cocktails before I went into work, and I was there. Maybe 10 people was there working, big office, insurance company. And the hours went by, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and I'm still there working, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up and looked at my watch, it was like 2 something in the morning, and the place was dark. I had the light in my cubicle, and that was like it. So I had the choice of trying to find the door. There was not even the receptionist out front. Everybody was gone. So, which meant I would have to take the elevator downstairs and explain to the lobby guard why I was still in the building. And I didn't want to take that chance. So I just spent the night there. I called the person that I was living with and said, well, I won't be home tonight, and explained the situation. And I kind of stayed there until the sun came up the next morning, maybe about 7, 8 o'clock. I got out and took the elevator down and waved to the new person that was on guard in the lobby and got out of there. So I actually spent the night at work because I was too scared to leave.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Things I've done for $1. Anybody else have a funny story? Dan.
You can hear Amy now.
Oh, if Amy, we can give Amy a chance. If
Yeah, Amy, go ahead.
Sorry, I feel like I'm dragging this down. Can you hear me? Okay. So this one time I was trying to connect to this podcast and it just took 3 times. No, I'm kidding. That. All right. So mine, it's a little bit risque. Okay. There's no bad words, but I'm glad I'm actually going a little bit later because although there's some kind of slang terms used. Okay. So I was at my job and I was on the phone with a client who is a pretty high level individual at their organization. They had somebody else from their company. There was me and there was a more junior person that I was training. They were going to be kind of second with me on this kind of client account. And I've prepped them. I'm like, this is a great client. This person's really important. We got to just be buttoned up. We got to, be really professional, do a really good job. And during the early part of the call, when you're like, how are you? What's going on? That kind of where you're just making small talk. My client says, I'm a little nervous because this weekend my mother-in-law is coming into town. And we're like, oh, that's great, that kind of thing. She says, well, it's not that I don't like my mother-in-law. It's that, sorry, it's that she's really judgmental because she's a fluffer. I'm going to pause. Who knows what that term means? I see some people are like kind of smiling. Okay.
Marcette, what's a fluffer?
Marcette, you want to explain to the group what a fluffer?
Assuming it's the fluffer in the industry that
the adult entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Yes. All of us thought that was what she meant, right? So all of us. So the other client me, the more junior person, we're all just like, you know, and like, how do you react to that? Because that was the last thing I expected to come out of this particular person's mouth. And so there's this like silence where we're all trying to like, how do we react without bursting into laughter over this? Like, how do we take this in stride? So we're just, you know, me and my coworker are kind of petrified. The client's coworker finally says, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, she does photo shoots for magazines and she'll come in and fluff the pillows in the house and fluff everything and make it look really nice. So whenever she comes into my house, even though she's a nice person, I feel like she's being judgmental because, you know, my couch cushions aren't appropriately fluffed." We were dying. We somehow made it through the rest of the call, but I ended up, you know, at the end of it, hang up. I turned to, you know, the more junior person with me who just goes, "Fluffer." And for the rest of the years we worked together, it was just it was extremely funny, and one of those where if it, depending on other coworkers, why is that funny, we'd tell them, or if it was someone more superior, I'd be like, no, I can't share that, but I'm sharing it with you now. So
Well, thank you for sharing that, Amy. Great story. Great story. Kosho, you have one more?
I do. So before I was a Freedom of Information Act officer, I was still working for the federal government. And one of my duties was helping tribes set up their own regulatory programs. So I would sometimes travel out to Indian reservations and work with the tribal governments and assist them with setting things up. And towards the end of one of these meetings, the tribe gave me a gift. I was quite honored to be getting a gift. And what they put in my hands was a plastic package filled with green leafy stuff. A bag filled with dark green leafy stuff. And I thought, what? You know how much trouble I can be in? I'm a federal employee. But then I looked at the label on the bag. It said wild rice. I thought, oh, that's all. Okay, wild rice. However, I had to fly back. And I was wondering, how are the TSA folks going to look at this package? I even thought of just throwing it away in the garbage. But I figured, no, you know, an interesting story could come from this. So let's see. Let's try to put in the conveyor belt and see what happens.
He said, "Let me try."
Yeah. So I put it in the belt. The person looking at the x-ray, he just pauses the belt and just looks at it for a long time. And then other people, other TSA employees, they come to the monitor, they look, and they just stare. They don't talk to me. They just stare. Then the supervisor comes by and he says, "What's wrong? Do we have to open up something?" And then he looks at the monitor and he just stares. So eventually, I guess they finally saw the label and they read it. It said wild rice. And they just turned the conveyor belt on and let me through without any further comments. So
Yeah,
that's my other story.
Yeah, you were lucky.
Yeah.
You were lucky. Marcette, we're going to ask you to close this segment up with your last funny story, sir.
Okay. I guess it's kind of, you have to know me. I'm actually, you know, a lot of people think I'm pretty straight laced or buttoned up, but I'm actually very silly. And I worked in mental health for a number of years. And my friends were always like, "Well, how do you sit and listen to all this stuff? Because we know you're silly and fun, you know, with a straight face." So, you know, I get asked that all the time. So I was working at this one high school on the west side, and someone had recently just asked me that question. And I was sitting there, and I had a girl, seventh grader, who was one of my clients, come into the office, and she had an aunt come in with her, and the aunt was at the wit's end. And now, mind you, my office was about as big as Amy's car. It was a very small, tight office. The little girl was kind of sizable for her age. The aunt was a bigger girl. I'm, obviously a bigger guy. So the three of us. Then my coworker, who and I shared an office, he's silly as well. So he and I just kind of were funny, laughed off each other. So I was like, "Well, what's going on?" So she just immediately start wailing and crying. So the mother of the aunt, who was the girl's grandmother, was bedridden, and the girl wanted to go outside or do something, and the aunt was like, "No, you can't do it." So the girl she had really bad impulse, so she picked up like a little thermos, and the grandmother's laying down and popped the grandmother on top of the head, and the girl made the sound. So the aunt's telling the story and crying, and the girl is sitting there laughing. So I'm sitting there, silly as I am, just like, say more, because I wanted to die. My coworker, he's like, "Can you all excuse me?" And he walked out of the office. And mind you, these offices they're paper thin. I could hear him behind me in the next office, literally on the floor, screaming, laughing. So the lady's crying, the little girl is laughing. He's in the next office about to have a heart attack. So I'm just sitting there like, so it was about a 3-day long story, because I just couldn't wait for them to leave so I could just start laughing. But it was just like the most, because it kept going, it just kept snowballing, because the more she was telling the story, she starts crying more than the little girl's laughing. And literally, I hear him having a seizure laughing in the next room. So it was just crazy.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Marcette. I think it's good sometimes for us to just take a break from the everyday and just tell some funny stories. It doesn't have to be about work. It could be personal life, kids, things we saw, even shopping in Walmart. I got stories about Walmart too, but I'll save that for another episode. And that's about all, y'all, for this episode of Diverse Talking Heads podcast. I'm your man, Calvin Gibbs. And it's always important that we take 2 steps to the rear and get on out of here. I want to thank our panelists this evening. I want to thank Charlie. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Calvin.
And I want to thank Dan for being here this evening.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
And Marcette. Thank you, Marcette.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Amy. Glad you was finally able to overcome your technical problems and tell us that great story. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks for your patience.
No problem. And Kaushal, thank you for being here as well.
It was a lot of fun.
So we're going to ask you, our audience, if you like this episode, please like the episode, like the podcast, and we'll see you at the next episode. And for now, we say exit stage left.